Good morning and good afternoon, folks.
Hello.
Hello, folks. Hello. We'll give folks a couple minutes to join and we'll get started. We don't have any presentations or demos on the schedule for today, so if anybody wants to give a last minute demo, uh, otherwise, I think we'll mostly just have a quicker check-in.
And Julian, correct me if I'm wrong here. We were potentially opening up discussion on the initiative from Tag Developer Experience.
That is correct. I was trying to find the link to put it in the chat.
Awesome. So maybe we can use that as our a small plan for today.
Yes, thank you for reminding me, Brent. I saw that in the Slack channel last week and completely forgot. So,
No, I think that's on all of us. We could have marked it as official.
all right. Well, we'll go ahead and kick things off with the normal logistics. Let me share the notes just in case folks are interested. Feel free to sign in and mark your attendance. And just a reminder that this meeting is being recorded and will be posted to LFX and YouTube shortly afterwards. Your participation in these meetings is an agreement to abide by the Cloud Native Code of Conduct, which can be found in the repo. Are there any volunteers to scribe today?
I can go ahead and scribe.
Thanks, Brent. I'll try to jump in there as well too, as needed. Um, all right. The first thing is new member introductions. So anybody who's new or visiting, feel free to take a minute to introduce yourself if you want to.
If I'm the only new one here, I guess I'll introduce myself. So I'm Julian. I work at Cubex, and I'm also part of Tag DevX since the Tag reboot last year. I'm a tech lead within there, and I started an initiative late last year to kind of have the developer experience lens on um, adopting tag security and compliance practices. And that's what I hope to discuss with you folks here today.
Awesome. Thank you. Um, and without a community demo, and I think in I don't know where we officially have things like this on the schedule, but I think we should just go ahead and kick off conversation around this. Let me reshare the link just in case message wasn't saved for folks joining a little bit later, but I'll hand it over to you, Julian, maybe kind of give us an overview and introduction.
Yeah, thanks. Then let me actually share the tab. This way can maybe be a bit more visual. Can you folks see my screen?
Yes, it's a bit small if you could zoom in a little bit.
All right. So this initially didn't start exactly like this. So perhaps all the comments that are there don't necessarily apply to the initiative. Was basically refined based on the feedback that I received. So if we take a look at the final result and what we're kind of hoping to execute on is basically pull all of the CNCF projects and their maintainers, everybody that is contributing, and trying to understand where everybody is kind of either successful or not successful at adopting the security practices that we're publishing through, I believe, this tag, and then trying to understand the impact that it has on developer experience. If it's creating developer friction, then trying to identify it. But I think what I'm hopeful for is finding success stories of people saying, hey, look at how amazingly it's been easy for us to adopt this, and here's what we've been able to do to make it easy and to not create any friction, and try to showcase all of these success stories. And as well, if there's kind of like common friction between projects, I think trying to raise it and see what are the potential solutions, either that we find from the success stories or thinking through solutions to minimize the friction that exists from adopting the practices. So that's the high level goal. It's very oriented at pulling the community and then just taking the results and kind of improvising from there to see, maybe we'll get a lot of successes, maybe we don't get a lot of successes, but just getting a pulse of what's happening and then going from there. So the kind of like the outputs, it's basically more of a report of the pain points and success stories. And through that, also, if we can get a sense of the maturity level of the various CNCF projects. I don't know if that's something that your tag is already kind of doing, and if you have a sense of the various maturity level of the various projects that we have within here. So that could always be left aside. I think the main point is really trying to identify it with regards to the developer experience and the friction that it creates or doesn't create. That's the main goal there. And I guess I may have shared it on Slack, but I have a draft of the survey we're planning to send, and your input would be very appreciated. Let me try to find it. Yeah, I didn't post it here. I'll post it in this meeting. Hold on. Here it is. So the survey is technically open because I have to publish it so that other folks can see it. But the goal is nobody has answered it yet. So it's still open for feedback. Nobody is expected to answer it. Hasn't been shared broadly. I'm hopeful that with the feedback from this tag, as well as other folks, we can refine the questions. If there's questions you want to see in there, happy to add to it. I'm trying to keep it relatively short so that it encourages people to answer by not having too many questions. So we can always remove and kind of refine it. We find that we want to add a lot more, then maybe kind of refine and remove some of what is maybe already there. But that's our starting point there.
This is super interesting. I know we have a lot of folks who have been assisting projects with the adoption of some of these practices, and I know Eddie has and others have the Security Slam coming up. This is maybe one thing for us to think about. I'm not sure as far as the survey itself or not, but we've seen a disparate set of experiences based on whether or not the project is a security related project or people very familiar with security practices versus others. And I know Mike and the Guac project went through reviewing the OpenSSF baseline project, and they had done almost everything just by default because those were the set of best practices that they're used to following. Um, so not quite sure. I'm just thinking about that in the background as far as how to differentiate those things.
Yeah.
Justin?
I think you like some of this stuff is interesting because part of what you can measure from this is do they know what they've done? Um, which one thing to think about is if you ask me to fill this out, I'm going to list a couple of different projects that I contribute to. And then all of my answers are going to sometimes apply to one project, sometimes apply to another project, sometimes apply to multiple projects. And that's not going to be clear from how I fill it out.
Yeah.
Just one thing to think about.
Good. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Another is that you probably from the name can find the project, but you want to make sure that's always the case. Because it would be interesting to know if, for instance, I may not, if I had just quickly gone through this, I may have just totally forgot that we do like best practice badging or that we did X or that we did Y. And I may not list all the tooling we're using because maybe I didn't set some of it up, right? I'm a maintainer, but I didn't manage that part of the project.
Yeah.
And I sort of loosely know it's there, maybe don't. And so that's also part of what you might try to figure out, like, or at least think for yourself, like, is this something that I want to learn from this study? What am I actually going to be able to say in the end? I'm going to be able to say that, for question 7, like 74% of the people said that yes, coding practices slowed their development, right? But how do I use that? Like, what do I take away from that? Is it that they feel they're not useful? They feel it slowed it down, but it made it more secure, so it was worth it. Or
yeah, and I think that there's, I guess, a lot of ambiguity because we're also dealing with people's feelings and how they interact with the project, right? The goal here is to have this set of questions be a minimal assessment, but also have folks volunteering to be reached out to, and then kind of have sessions that go like deeper and kind of are more conversational to kind of try to surface more of these details. So that's kind of seen. I'm hopeful that the survey represents that, but yeah. So at the end, it kind of says, "Would you want to be reached out to?" Right, and then maybe do a more workshop oriented session to try to go deeper in some of these subjects and try to produce like things that are less ambiguous and that are more specific, right? But the survey aims at trying to find an initial set of results and then an initial set of folks that would potentially volunteer to be part of these workshops.
Yeah, and I personally, I mean, this maybe doesn't fit in the scope of this, but I'd personally be very interested in what they want us to do to help them out. Because right now, what's happening is a bunch of people, myself included on this call, are making tooling that we would love to see adopted. We're also making best practices that say you should use this tooling in this way and stuff. And we're doing other things like this to try to help out. Is it the kind of thing where they would like us to have a like a Securathon at KubeCon EU, KubeCon NA, or whatever, and they just come by for like 2 hours, and we integrate in a bunch of security protections for them and check all their GitHub, like set up and do all of this, like walk them through it, like kind of security slam style.
Yeah,
Is that what they want, or do they want to do X, or do they want to do Y? Like what's the best way?
yeah, that's a valid point. That's something that I feel could probably be added as an open question, right? As what help do you feel would be valuable to you to integrate more security practices in your workflows, right? Um, so I think that's kind of a good one I feel to add. I feel, well, if with maintainers, I assume it's the same as with like any application teams or any owners. It's security often comes as like you have to do it, but it's not what ships features, right? And that's also something that I'm trying to understand is the how does the existing balance exist, right? Are we considering it enough? Are we going to say, oh no, we're always too busy doing XYZ and it's always left behind, and this would potentially help us adopt it better, right? I think this is, and these are all very vague for now, and trying to fill these gaps there with how project maintainers and contributors are feeling is kind of the goal here.
Do any other folks have thoughts about the idea or the survey? Brant?
Yeah, I think for me, when we were bringing it up initially and I was looking through it and I only saw the revised version, so I didn't have the context of how it was framed previously, I I appreciated that, like, we're kind of creating room for more breadth of conversation that is not solely like tag security focused, right? I've only ever seen the discussion through the lens of tag security. And so I'm biased in the ways that maybe like we've tried to approach it in the past or the conversations that we had in the past. And post reboot of the tags, like it's kind of refreshing to see where there might be more overlays of like how these tags can work together on some common areas. And so I don't know, generally pretty excited to see this as an opportunity to do that.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for the feedback. I think that's one thing where I feel developer experience overlaps on pretty much all the other tags, right? And that in the end will have like the collaboration is like I see a lot of the DevX initiatives kind of collaborating with other tags, and I feel that's going to be very positive over time. So appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, so maybe that leads into the question of how can we best support this initiative either during the process. I'm sure people can provide feedback asynchronously on the forum itself if there's specific things. And definitely, I know we would all be super interested in the results as well too.
Yeah, I think the async feedback, like if we're thinking like more near term, the async feedback, then we'll probably publish the survey once it's in a decent form before KubeCon, and then see the results trickle in. And then I would assume that you folks have a session at the maintainer track. So something like a call out in your session would be appreciated. We'll do one call out in our session. We'll see if we can get a call out at the maintainer summit as well, because there's going to be a lot of contributors there and maintainers. So I think for the very near future, that would be pretty much it. And then once I think we start seeing if there's going to be enough volunteers to give us feedback on a deeper level, then maybe having, one representative or two from the tech leads here or the chairs to kind of like join these sessions, so that it's not the telephone game between us and here, and that you're kind of like well plugged into the feedback we receive. The goal is to have a comprehensive output that is going to be written at the end, but I feel there's a potential for a lot of conversations, and maybe some follow-ups that you folks may want to ask to understand better. Like Justin was mentioning, how can you help, like these kind of things, and being involved in the conversation, I think, will help there. So hopefully this initiative can be used to facilitate these kind of conversations as one of the things that it does. So.
Awesome. That sounds great. And I think we have a booth at the Project Pavilion as well too, so we definitely can include a slide there, kind of as a shout out for folks passing by.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we'll have a booth there as well. So I assume we'll showcase all the initiatives we have in flight. So that will be there as well. So hopefully, um, if we're lucky, maybe before KubeCon we have some answers, but post KubeCon, the hope would be that we start having more answers, more folks interested, and then kind of outline the workshop steps post KubeCon. Or maybe if there's folks that are very interested at KubeCon, and we see there's a lot of interest, maybe having folks meet even in person, or having good conversations there, and tracking those somewhere in a doc so that it can be part of the final result.
Anybody have any other last thoughts or comments? All right. Well, thanks for taking the time to come by and share this and chat about it. Looking forward to seeing how it all comes together.
Yeah, thanks for you guys for having me here. I have to drop for a work meeting, but thanks a lot for having me here, and looking forward to working with you guys on the initiative. Cool. Thanks, folks.
All right. We can do next up review of other time zone meetings. There was a APAC meeting last week. Looks like there were a couple of folks there. And KubeCon Japan recap of the PostgreSQL authorization presentation. So might be an interesting thing to catch up on. It looks like there's a YouTube recording from the original presentation itself as well too. So and beyond that, it looks like the blog for Security Slam as well too was referenced. I think last week when we chatted, Eddie said it was about to be published, and it has officially been published. So that is good. Um, all right. Beyond that, I know there was a TOC meeting this week. I did not make it there. I think it was mostly initiative updates. Anything of interest from the folks who were there?
Yeah, it was mostly just initiative updates from the different tags. So if folks are curious what everyone is doing, it's an interesting one to watch. There was some discussion around the supply chain insights one, especially around how that relates to some of the work that the CNCF staff are doing. I think it was mostly just everyone catching up on what the status of that is. I don't think it was anything new for folks who've been following it, but that was interesting. And then just all the tag security ones, I think we have updates posted in the repo. So if anyone is curious about those, they should all be in the GitHub issues as well.
Does anybody have context on the things the CNCF staff are working on? I think I've heard a little bit about things
Yeah.
here or there, but
Let's see. I'll try and summarize. So basically, they are working on getting specific supply chain metrics for projects captured. But I think they're taking a slightly different approach than the initiative. And so this is just a way of trying to make sure that everyone's talking to each other and not duplicating effort there. I think that their scope is a little bit broader than ours is as far as that. So
I think just to add on to that as well is I think the staff I'm going to project a little bit because I haven't spent a lot of time looking at their solutions. But I believe from the discussion, because they were involved in the early kind of initiative scoping sessions, um, that they were taking a opinionated approach on how do we collect some of the metrics, as far as, instead of maybe trying to have an all-in-one solution that collects SBOMs and collects other data that may or may not exist. They're going to hit the same road bumps that I think we all hit when we want to try to provide a best practice on something like that. They're taking a different approach where they're, I believe, like generating SBOMs for projects so that then they can take the next step of building off of those SBOMs. And so implications there are, there's always things kind of embedded in that, but I think that there is still room for some positive outcomes to kind of learn from. And same with the Supply Chain Security Insights Initiative, like quickly finding out that there's SBOMs everywhere or there's no SBOMs. And that being a problem of like consistency just highlights that, hey, there's room for, a capability to come in here or a best practice or something else that we can help guide before maybe there's an all-in-one solution that solves everyone's needs.
Very interesting. The idea of building SBOMs for projects and is interesting. It reminds me of some of the things I know. I think Santiago and Aditya have done with rebuilders for some of the different in toto packages, where not only do they rebuild it, they create attestations during that process of rebuilding it. So awesome. So project updates. I think since that was the main subject of the TOC meeting, even though for the sake of redundancy, the audience here and the recording may be a bit different. Does anybody have an update on the supply chain insights? I know they switched to every other week. I'm not sure if they met this week or not.
Uh,
Probably not. Monday was a holiday. Yeah.
exactly.
Um, which maybe the next question is whether or not the MCP group did meet on Monday. Did any updates from that?
Uh, I am happy to do it, but Jen, if you want to step into, you're more welcome to do so.
Sure. So they did meet on Monday, and a lot of the discussion was around restructuring the existing document to take a more kind of problem first approach, I would say. There did seem to still be some focus on the IAM concepts, but I do think that with the focus on the problem, I'm hopeful that the extra guidance that doesn't have a clear problem will be removed from the document. And I don't know if you had anything to add there, Justin.
Nope. Thanks for working with them and trying to help them out.
Awesome. Security assessments. I'm guessing there's maybe still no progress there.
Our illustrious Eddie Knight chimed in to say, hey, what can I do to move this along? And has heard crickets unless there's been some private messaging.
So
I see Marina unmuting, so please
yes,
go ahead.
I ran into Andrew Martin at a conference last week, and so I was able to ask for a status update on that one. And it sounds like he thinks the progress is moving along. They're moving past naive questions. But I haven't seen that reflected in the GitHub, so I think there could be some more follow-up there.
I mean, as far as I know, I haven't been getting notifications that these things have been resolved, but I mean, they're already supposed to be past naive questions because we all chimed in too. So hopefully they're, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, we need more from their side is basically the short of it.
Well, if nothing else, we can track down some of the maintainers in person in a month at KubeCon. So,
Switching from Caverno but staying on security assessments. I have been I think it was Evan and I that kind of were talking about what self-assessment guides do we want to provide to folks during the security slam. And so we decided that for the self-assessment guides, we'd already kind of moved most of the stuff over to the OpenSF repo, and they're kind of like page by page snippets and things like that. So we're going to point people over there, but we don't. So separate from security slam, still staying on security assessments. We don't have any. I have not seen progress on that resolution that you talked about, Justin, where like there's two ways of going about the joint assessments. There's like an old way and a new way. There's like a vision that you have that maybe not all of us understand. So I'm thinking that it might be good for us to start collecting notes on that and then getting it kind of down.
Yeah, I'm happy to block off some time and just kind of go through things. I think it's like the docs we have are mostly right, but there's just a few places where we've been doing things a little bit differently that we need to patch up.
And something Evan pointed out is that we only have within CNCF, we only have archived resources for self or joint assessments. Everything's archived. There are no non-archived resources within CNCF. So that's something to consider as well. We, for the sake of discussion, non-binding, right? We were thinking that it just makes sense to not try to co-maintain that with the TOC, but instead do it within a standalone project that we already spun up last year. So that was kind of the status of the brainstorming that Evan and I were having on that. So I'd be inclined to, like, whatever notes we collect, let's get it in that repo that, well, heck, you're listed as a maintainer on it already. So I think it should be pretty streamlined to just kind of get it over there.
Sounds good.
yeah, and then I think maybe the updated project, I forget what the name of the contribute.cncf.io, just getting that to point to the updated locations would be the non-archived version. Which is nice because it's a separate from the TOC repo. So
I don't have that written down to do anywhere. So either remind me of that or write it down somewhere and tag me on it.
all right. Security controls.
Not a whole lot of updates there. The main one is that the threat assessment guide for milestone 2 has been completed initially and merged into the Security Slam library. So I think the outcome of that and the feedback that we get will tell us if we should continue with milestones 2 and 3 of this initiative, and let us know whether this is something that project maintainers would be able to support or if it would help them.
Jen, do you want this is a 3-second old idea. Do you want me to create a form at the bottom of that where people can just, like, because you said collect feedback. Do you want to have an asynchronous feedback mechanism for people who are visiting that page and have issues with it?
Yes, please. That would be amazing.
Okay.
Maybe connecting the security controls update to Security Slam update. I had not heard of the Security Slam library. Does anybody have a link for that or no?
It'll go live on Friday. What we're trying to do is collect any knowledge resources. So this could be like links, or a few people have just like written little blogs or guides for the different topics, right? So I think I've talked to a lot of different people to just let them know, like, hey, if you have anything that would help people improve their security hygiene, please, like, let's collect those all in one place. So there's two key approaches. One is just like novel content, just throwing up something small that can kind of help maintainers that's specific to this Security Slam. Or the context of it. And then the second type of resource is a listicle of sorts, right? It's like just linking out to existing documentation. So those are the two kind of things that we're compiling in the Security Slam library. And then it's going to work like a blog. Like I added tags to everything. It's markdown files. Jen has the only one that's actually been merged in so far that she just referenced a second ago. So if you are interested in creating something like that, we can just give you the link to the one that's already crafted.
Awesome. Looking forward to seeing that. Any other Security Slam updates?
Yeah, I mean, we have more than 20 people registered. I think 7 of them are maintainers from different projects. I don't have it in front of me. We are going to be reaching out to projects later on today. One of us organizers is going to be reaching out to projects to ask like whether projects want to be listed as accepting external contributions. So basically just like, hey, do you want us to put your logo on the site and tell people to make PRs? Otherwise, by default, silent participation. You participate however you want to participate, and we'll give you an award if you want it. But we're also going to present maintainers with the option to put their logo on the site as like accepting Security Slam contributions from the general public. So we're going to reach out to anybody who's already registered later today and see who wants to do that. And then past that, historically, most people sign up for the Slam during the Slam, and then they complain that they didn't have enough lead time. So if you have any open source maintainers in your life that are not already demonstrating compliance with the security baseline, or just generally care about making those improvements, then yeah, like shoot them the link. I think Marina and I have been sharing it all over Slack and LinkedIn and everything. So just shoot them that link to register, and we'll hopefully have a pretty good, impactful next 30 days. Oh, also for this group to opine on, I think I said it before, I'm not asking for people to respond instantly unless you have an instant thought, but we haven't yet locked in prizes and awards and incentives. I know that we're doing a plaque, but we might have more budget than that from the sponsor budget. So if you guys have ideas of stuff that we want to give to the participants, right now the only thing we have locked in is we're going to do Credly badges issued by Linux Foundation or OpenSSF, one of the two, and a physical plaque to the projects that are at KubeCon. Those are the only two things that are locked in so far. So if you have ideas for something that we could use any other sponsor dollars for, please send me your ideas, because I don't know.
Dare I suggest hoodies?
Yeah, so the trouble the trouble with the hoodies is we either overbuy or underbuy. We have to figure out, like, okay, who's qualifying for it. There's yeah, it needs more brainstorming to make that work. We did it previously, and it took 4 months when we had CNCF doing the orders and sending them out. Maybe this time we could just have Sonatype do it, and they would probably be more quick about it. But then there's the other side of, if we're not restricting it to in person, where do we draw the line if hypothetically a bunch of people sign up halfway through the slam? Everybody wants a hoodie, right? That hypothet, I don't know. It just needs more brainstorming. If you really like the idea of hoodies and you want to help me make it work, then please.
I'm mostly just giving you a hard time from the past experience. So
Didn't you like the hoodies? I thought that was the point. Are you bringing it up because you didn't like them, or are you bringing it up because you did like them?
I'm bringing it up because I remember the trauma some people experienced just in trying to receive their hoodie.
Yeah, there you go. Mike's got his hand up. Mike, were you talking to me?
No, I was just gonna say, one of the things I liked from one of the previous times was those patches. I think the issue is like if they were just like embossed stickers, I think they'd maybe be a little bit better because I'm like, what do I even have that I can iron this on? But I think like some sort of like something along those lines, I think resonates at least with me is like some sort of collectible badge, pin, something like that, where it's like, oh, I can put this somewhere and it means something to me. And it's also not at the like, like the hoodies are great, but I also recognize that so many folks ran into so many issues that were outside of your control. So like that on that end, I don't necessarily think but I think on the end of like, hey, what are the things that resonate with me? It's like a little collectible thing like I got this badge for participating in this thing. You didn't get a badge because you didn't participate. Is pretty neat.
The new CNCF or KubeCon speaker keychain things are pretty cool. I like those. The different location on there, Atlanta, London. All right. Any other project updates of anything we missed? All right. On the triage of current issues, I did not see anything new in there. Um, Shout if there is something new in there that I haven't seen.
I
Eh,
did reopen a KCP joint assessment issue this week. I think that might be new in our bucket.
Okay. I Since it reopened, it has the original date, which looks like August of 2025. So that's why I did not see it. I will post a link in here for the issue. It looks like that there was a self-assessment that there is a link to for the KCP group, and mm, maybe do we need to just reach out to the maintainer? Looks like Marvin to kick off a joint assessment.
It would seem so. He is the one who asked to have it reopened, and then it added the self-assessment.
Okay, so maybe then the thing we should do is the team identification to kick off the sort of normal process. I was going to ask who would like to reach out, but maybe just soliciting the issue on the Slack channel and on the issue, putting out a call for the project lead security reviewer, and additional reviewers might be a good start. and somebody besides Justin, who I'm sure Justin is willing to help. It's the usual call out. All right. The uh, any other general stand-up check-in items? All right. And then scheduling the next community demo. I know that last week we discussed the possibility of a EO 14028 revocation debate, something along those lines. Of basically the SBOM regulation being repealed. It's not technically a law, I guess, but I think you all know what I mean. Do we want to officially put that on the calendar?
We can. Like I am of course game for it. The 4th would be a good day for me. I will not be at the meeting next week due to a conference.
Okay.
Which conference is
will.
next week?
There's an academic security conference called NDSS that's in San Diego, where I will be.
Oh, okay. I will
San
be.
Diego will be a nice change of weather, hopefully, for this time of year.
Yeah, I will also be at LFM, Linux Foundation Member Summit next week.
Also, probably a nice change of weather.
Yeah, yeah. John, you'll be there, right?
I will not be there, but I was considering going, but too much travel.
Anybody who hasn't been to Linux Foundation Member Summit, if you do get an opportunity, I recommend you take it at some point. It is like the anti-conference.
All right. And last call for any other business. Otherwise, I think we've covered everything. All right, so everybody's got at least 10 minutes, hopefully, before your next meeting to get up from your desk, walk away. As Isaac Hepworth used to say, go pet a cat or other animal. If you have one, go outside, touch some grass, get some sunshine, if possible. That is not possible here. The rain is turning to snow. So, um, all right, and we will see everybody next week, or most everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, thanks.